Your guests are in violation of Section 3. Pay the outstanding fines or these cars will be towed.
We don't owe you anything, Karen. This is completely unreasonable.
The tow truck lights turned my bedroom into a police movie, blue and white flashing through the blinds while cold air leaked in around the window, and I could smell wet asphalt and my own burnt coffee on the nightstand. I stumbled out to my driveway, in socks, heart pounding, to see a guy chaining up my friend Marco's little red Honda. He said the HOA had called it in as an unauthorized vehicle with unpaid dues. I stared at him, then at my own concrete driveway, then at the bright yellow ticket slapped under the wiper like a slap to my face. The slip said Marco owed unpaid assessments dating back to 2009. Marco moved here last year. I bought the house in 2022. My toes were freezing on the concrete when I realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a shakedown. The next morning, still smelling stale coffee and rage, I walked to the HOA office and met Linda, our board president and full-time Karen. Her hair was perfect, her smile was sharp, and her voice was sugar over glass. She slid a manila folder across the counter. Inside was a ledger showing past due balances on my lot going back to 2009, plus guest parking penalties for every plate ever seen in my driveway. The total at the bottom was $3,460. She said calmly that until that amount was paid, any vehicle in my driveway was subject to tow. That's when the title of this whole nightmare wrote itself in my head. HOA. Find my driveway guests for unpaid dues since 2009. Then I filed the escrow file. I tried to be reasonable. I really did. I emailed the board. No reply. I knocked on neighbors' doors, and they all gave me the same tight smile and small shake of the head. One older guy whispered, "They'll come for you next if you fight them." At the next HOA meeting on May 3rd, 2024 at 7:00 p.m., I stood up with my closing papers and said, "These charges are from the previous owner," and escrow cleared them. Linda tapped her pen, looked past me, and called for the next agenda item. My hand shook as I sat down. Then the call started. Security checking my guests. Bright flashlights at 11:32 p.m. when my sister parked. Timeline item 1, April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I looked that line up myself in plain language law guides at my kitchen table, fingers sticky from pizza grease. That was my line in the sand. I promised myself I'd only use proper channels, but I was done trying to be nice. I pulled out a plastic tote from my closet. Inside was the thick escrow packet from when I bought the house. I spread everything on the dining table. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I called my escrow officer and asked if there were more records. She laughed softly and said, "Oh yeah, we keep everything." When the email arrived, the file landed with 63 pages. I printed all of it. The old owner's payoff statement. The HOA's own signature saying the account was paid in full through June 30th, 2022. A letter from the management company saying no liens and no pending violations. Then I filed a complaint with the state HOA office, attached the escrow file, and submitted a public records request for every violation and tow order Linda had signed for our subdivision in the last 3 years. The results were ugly. The records showed 29 complaints Linda had filed herself, many at weird times like 213 a.m., all against the same 4 houses, including mine. 5 board-approved towing policies had never actually been voted on. Some signatures didn't match. The kicker was a scanned check made out to the association that was never deposited into the HOA bank account, but into a side account with almost the same name. I waited for the perfect stage, the next open HOA meeting, held outside by the pool so more people could fit. The smell of chlorine and fresh-cut grass mixed with the sound of kids splashing while adults dragged out folding chairs. Linda sat at a plastic table with her little gavel, ready to run the show. Then a man in a suit from the state HOA office arrived, along with a city code inspector and a very bored-looking police officer. People started pulling out phones. When Linda tried to start the meeting, the state investigator raised his hand. He said they were there to address serious concerns about improper fines and towing orders. I walked up and handed him 3 binders. One for him, one for the inspector, one for the officer. On top was a cover page, timeline and evidence, driveway fines and false reports. He flipped to the escrow clearance letter and read it out loud, his voice steady over the quiet crowd. He showed the page where the HOA had signed that my lot had 0 balance. Then he lifted another page showing a tow order, signed by Linda, claiming I owed thousands. A neighbor behind me whispered, "Oh, she is done." Phones came up everywhere. The inspector explained that fines can't be attached to guest cars for old owner debt. The officer explained, in simple words, that calling in false trespass reports could be considered misuse of police resources. Linda's face went from peach to beet red. Her mouth opened and closed like she was underwater. The investigator went through the public record, page by page, projecting key documents on a little portable screen someone had brought. You could hear people gasp. One slide showed a list of 9 bogus violations, all times stamped after midnight. Another showed the side bank account that wasn't in any official budget. The inspector said calmly that this looked like self-dealing and that it would be referred to the Attorney General. Neighbors laughed nervously. Someone in the back said, "Linda, you charged me for lawn dust last year." The chat in our neighborhood app lit up with screenshots and memes before the meeting even ended. The officer turned to me in front of everyone and said, "For the record, sir, you had every right to park guests in your driveway, and that tow should never have happened." Within a month, the fallout hit. The board held an emergency election. Linda resigned before the vote. The state office ordered all the illegal fines reversed, including every guest driveway penalty. The HOA had to refund more than $21,000 to owners. A letter went out on June 12, 2024 at 9:00 p.m. stating that my account was, and always had been, paid in full, and that the association would cover Marco's $250 tow bill from their own operating fund. Linda was banned from serving on any board in the state for 5 years. The false report pattern got forwarded to the district attorney. I don't know what they'll do, but I know this. The late-night flashlight stopped. Now my driveway is just a driveway. Kids ride scooters down the cul-de-sac. My older neighbor brings me cookies and jokes that I'm the escrow guy who saved the block. At our first calm summer cookout, as the sun dropped and the smell of burgers filled the air, my phone buzzed with a new message. "Thank you for standing up to her," from a neighbor I barely knew. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.